Since our last recording of Dracula, we found a tidbit of interesting information. Apparently, where Dracula starts is technically 101 pages in.
Yeah.
The first 101 pages of Dracula is missing. How do you feel about that?
Interesting. I only checked out that thing a little bit that you sent me. I didn't get a chance to fully check it out. But does it go into more what's in what might be in in those missing pages?
It said the short story Dracula's Guest might have been in there. What irritates me is Paul Allen bought those 101 pages somehow, and he did let the grandkids or great grandkids of Bram Stoker read it, but made them sign a non-disclosure agreement so they can't release the info. It's why? Why are you being a dick? Just release, if I bought something like that, I would want everybody to be able to read it. Why are you I hate rich guys like that.
I wondered, when did he buy those?
I think it was this year. It wasn't that long ago.
So, why did it go into, why those 100 pages wasn't in the...
The editor cut them.
Did
Paul Allen die recently? Maybe that was in 2017 or 18 he bought those. I don't remember. I think he's one of the co-founders of Microsoft. The editor cut 101 pages from the manuscript. So when Jonathan Harker is going to Transylvania, that's already fucking how many chapters into the story, technically. So that's pretty interesting. I don't know. I like how Dracula starts with him in Transylvania. I don't know if I'd want to go into all that other stuff. But it'd be interesting to read those 101 pages.
Yeah.
And, really see what's in there.
I wonder if it would, focus more on Dracula beforehand, or maybe setting up Transylvania more, or, maybe with Jonathan, getting the call on, or not the call because when it's take place, but, the assignment about going to Transylvania or something.
Most likely it was just, I don't know, incredibly racist, and they just cut it.
Nah, not back then.
No way.
Not back then. They would have left that in there.
Yeah. Well, it was in Ireland, though, right? He's Irish, I think, Bram Stoker. So I don't know what life... I would imagine there wasn't any black people in Ireland to be racist towards at the time. We're going to watch some Dracula movies, right? Got to. Do we watch Bela Lugosi, or do we skip right to the 90s and do Gary Oldman Dracula? That fits more with the actual book, I think.
Yeah.
But you have Keanu Reeves' terrible acting.
Before he redefined himself.
Yeah. We'll discuss that at another juncture. You are listening to the Drunken Pen Writing Podcast, Dracula Edition. I don't know why we did the Jason Voorhees intro.
It should be because you can only do so many.
I'm your host, Caleb James. With me today, Spencer, the Baltimore Bat Biter Church. Yeah. You want something sucking, but we did Sacramento Sucker, I think.
Oh, okay.
That was a suggestion, but we already said it on there, so done. I believe we are covering chapters 10 to 15.
Yes, that seems right.
I'm really lost on where where chapter 10 started. I don't remember.
It was just
Lucy was still alive, but she was sick.
Yeah, she was still it was one of the times after she got better, but then was getting worse. But I think once you got into the chapter 10, isn't that when they started introducing the garlic and all that stuff, or was that in the previous ones?
I feel like we covered that in the last episode. If not, we'll just reiterate real quick. Because again, since this goes in diary form, literally every other chapter would be Lucy's diary, Nina's diary. So it gets a little confusing on looking back, and we didn't take notes.
Well, even in one chapter, we can have multiple different entries, and without the chapters don't have any titles or anything. They're just Roman numerals, so there's no recognitiveness with it. That title might jog something in your memory, where you left off or whatever.
Yeah, that would have been nicer, because again, it just always starts off with somebody's diary entry, and you're just okay, but as you said, there's multiple diarrhea entries. Maybe back then there's a lot of dysentery going on. There's multiple diary entries in
letters
one chapter and letter. Yeah. Again, though, not very boring. I'm very surprised. There's only a couple parts where I slogged out a little bit. For the most part, I've stayed on track and really enjoyed this. So just to reiterate, Van Helsing's there trying to take care of Lucy. They give her garlic. I want to say we did cover this in the last one, but Lucy's sick mother foolishly takes away the garlic because it stinks or something, and then Lucy gets bitten again. Her blood's drained again. She's sick, and then her and her mother are together. Emergency blood transfusion, all this shit. Lucy's mother dies, and then we bring in, I think, Arthur to say his goodbyes pretty much because Lucy's dying too.
Yeah, she's like on her last legs.
Yeah, they're not gonna be able to revive her this time. And they even see the bat this time. They look out the window and see the big fucking asshole bat that keeps flapping on the window. Still don't put two and two together. Van Helsing might, but not the other ones.
Yeah. Well, the other ones don't have any other anything to think other than it's just like a big bat.
Mm-hmm. So there's a really cool scene there with Arthur when he's saying his goodbyes to his fiancée Lucy. And he wants to kiss her, and Van Helsing grabs Arthur around the neck and like throws him. Yeah. And he's an older guy. And he throws Arthur across the room, and he's like, "You just have to trust me. You can't kiss her." And it's like, because obviously she's a vampire, and she kind of goes in and out of being a vampire there, which is pretty cool. Like she's like sweet Lucy, but then you can kind of see like she's gonna bite you. And then she dies.
They technically kind of sort of get married,
maybe
like a little, like not like an actual marriage, but like I think like. Because I think they do end up, like, kissing and, like, like, just, like, had, like, a little, like, not an official thing, but, just, like, you guys are married before she dies. Like, you know what I mean?
I don't remember. When did that happen?
Like, I thought it was, right before she died. I thought they did, like, a, just, like, he kind of sat on the bed with her, and they did, what I mean?
I know he kissed her on the forehead, but Van Helsing wouldn't let him kiss her on the lips. You're not confusing that with the Jonathan Harker wedding, are you? And when he was on his sick bed?
No. I know. I remember that. But like I said, I don't
think... Maybe they did then, because he was...
Like, I don't think they, like I said, like, how even, like, the Jonathan one was more, like, official. I think it was just more kind of, like, as, like, them in their room... Just a thing to do before she passed, as two, young lovers and, one's dying,
Does seem like a common theme back then is they would get married on people's deathbeds.
Then that sounds like the way to marry somebody, isn't it?
Just get their money and just be gone with them. Obviously, Arthur is very distraught, but he trusts Van Helsing and John Stewart. She dies, though. I'll fast forward a little bit here because we do go back to Jonathan Harker and Van Helsing visits Lucy. I don't want to pass up the scene where Jonathan Harker sees Dracula in public.
Or what he thinks is Dracula.
He thinks it's Dracula, but it looks like Dracula, but a younger, sexier, slimmer, more handsome, debonair, oiled up, rippling muscles, perfectly trimmed mustache, beautifully white movie star teeth. You can stop me anytime.
No. I was waiting for something else at the end of
that. I didn't want to think of it anymore. Anyway, younger Dracula, and he just freaks out in public. Like, Jonathan Harker just goes statue. She's like, and Lucy's like, oh, this ain't normal. And at this point, she didn't read his journals yet.
I think that's kind of something that kind of pushed her into reading them.
She gets him out of there, and then eventually she does read the journals, and then she puts two and two together. She's like, oh, that must have been Count Dracula. She's like, oh, no, but I don't want to believe it. She thinks she's kind of crazy, so he gets Van Helsing's opinion. He reads it. He reassures her that it's all true, everything in that journal.
Because also, like, within these issues, there's been, she's been trying to write Lucy letters.
Yeah.
Just trying to tell her what's going on since they haven't talked in a while, but she never, Lucy never gets around to writing back. And eventually, is it Van Helsing?
Van Helsing gets all the letters at Lucy's funeral.
Yeah, and is she the one? Is he the one who sends like the letter to inform her that she died, or was it the doctor?
Yeah, he sends her.
I couldn't remember which one did it. But that's how they get into communicating with each other and stuff like that.
Sends her a telegram. Yeah, because Lucy dies, and at her funeral. Also very cool. Her funeral, like the body's very beautiful. It's actually more beautiful than when she before she died. Like her lips are full, her face is reddened again, and she looks like a living person. So that's like freaking him out.
I wanted to bring this up. Did you when reading those scenes that was taking place in her room where she was like getting all super thin and stuff in between the blood transfusions and stuff, did you get like almost like an Exorcist kind of vibe from it? Like that's what they kind of. Yeah, like, that's what they like. Those were like how like, especially like because like in the movie, like the room's always dark and shadowy, and like those were just kind of like the images that I was using those images to kind of paint the picture in my head as like a template.
Well, Bram Stoker did a great job of describing her transformation too.
Oh yeah,
because her skin becomes like ashen, her eyes are sunken in,
the teeth are getting longer.
Her lips are like waxy. What I like is not that they don't just say, because again, as we said many times, if you were reading this back then, you might not know about vampires, and you definitely didn't know what was happening in this book. Everything's new and fresh. Vampire tropes weren't invented yet. So when you're reading this, he doesn't just say, oh, her teeth are getting longer. He says, oh, looks like her gums are receding again, and her teeth are almost at a point.
Or like the canines.
Yeah, the canines look like they're at a point because he blames the gums receding. It's not the gums. And again, we're skipping around a little here just because of the way the journal entries are. But Van Helsing does see Lucy, reassures her that everything in there is true. Jonathan feels better about it, so they all agree they're going to work together and stuff. Skip to the cool stuff. So we go back. This is a week later. Van Helsing explains he's trying to be nice about it because apparently John Stewart loves Lucy as well. So he's trying to explain was he one of her suitors? He was, wasn't he?
I couldn't remember if he was a suitor or if he was just like, because I thought he was older.
Maybe, yeah.
So I thought he was more just kind of like, because he's a doctor, so I thought maybe he just being like the friend of the family, living within the same like neighborhood or area kind of thing.
See, when he was introduced, he wasn't like a major part just yet. He was just running the insane asylum. Regardless. So we go back, and because Jon Stewart is in love with Lucy, or at least loves her like a daughter, something like that. It doesn't describe
cares for her.
Yeah, he cares for her deeply. Van Helsing tries to drop this bomb very subtly at first, because there's newspaper stories going around, headlines going around, that someone called the Bloofer, I thought that was a strange name, the Bloofer lady, and I thought at first Boofer lady, like she's boofing. It's like, oh no, that's gross. If you don't know what boofing is, don't Google it. The Bloofer lady was going around grabbing up kids and biting them on the neck or something because all these kids had fang, holes in their neck. So that was very interesting. The Bloofer lady's like, oh no. So it skips past that story and then goes into other stuff. And then Van Helsing's telling Jon Stewart about his theory. And then finally at the end of that chapter, he just comes out and says, Lucy is the one going around. She's the Bloofer lady. She's going around biting children. She's obviously turned into a vampire. Jon Stewart doesn't want to believe it. Kind of an asshole for like this one chapter, like because he just doesn't want. It's his journal too, and he's just like very very aggressive. It's like no fucking way, you old dickhead. But he relents. He helps Van Helsing break into mortuary, I guess. What
mausoleum?
Mausoleum. That's the word. And apparently back then they nailed the coffin shut and they were lined with lead, which I thought was interesting. I don't know if they still do that or not. I don't know much about coffins, though.
Well, I think especially down there back then, they did
Black Death and all that shit, too.
That and then, grave robbing was very easily back then. So I think they did that kind of stuff to kind of make it harder for them to, get the goods.
Well, there's a big scene where... Before we get to the big scene, because I mentioned this to you.
Oh, yeah.
And you did not... You didn't remember, and I don't know how you didn't remember unless you just kind of glossed over it or something, because I found it took me out of the story for a minute, because I had to reread the paragraph a couple times before I understood what was happening. So they go into this mausoleum, and they go to Lucy's grave, and again, they're talking back and forth. Jon Stewart does not believe, he's kind of sickened at what they're doing, which you'd naturally be, and he's like, I don't want to fucking do this, dude. Like, why do we gotta see the body? Because at this point, Van Helsing wants to prove that there's no body in there. And Jon Stewart...
Was this before or after the conversations about bats?
I don't remember.
Well, we can hit that up after.
How do you go to the notes feature on here?
I don't know. I don't take no goddamn notes.
Here we go. So when they finally are in there and they're looking around, it's dark when they go there. This is why Lucy's not there. or at least Van Helsing thinks she wouldn't be there if she's a vampire. Obviously, she's out feeding because she's the Bloofer lady. He needs to prove this to Jon Stewart. He's looking around, and again, they only have candlelight back then. So he's looking around the coffin, whatever plate that had the name on it, and he's trying to use the candle to read. It's a very short paragraph, but I just found it weird. Van Helsing went about his work systematically, holding his candle so that he could read the coffin plates, and so holding it that the sperm dropped in white patches which congealed as they touched the metal. He made assurance of Lucy's coffin, another search in the bag, and he took out a turn screw. Now, I read that, and I was like, wait, what? Because it was late when I was reading that. So, you get invested in the story, but then you kind of just...
Like, how sleepy am I?
Wait, sperm? And because it wasn't just sperm, it was white sperm.
Dribbling and then coagulating.
Yeah, and I was like, did I miss something? Did somebody get an old-fashioned in here? And so I read back, and I was like, oh, he's talking about the wax. Why didn't you just use wax as the word? It's but I mean, when I thought about it, though, and I was like, it's actually very vivid imagery. You think the sperm's white, comes out in globs, and it drips on something. It kind of hardens, too. Yeah. So I was like, it makes sense, but ew. Because I highlighted the word sperm, too, because I was like, well, maybe it has a second definition I was never aware of. Does not. At least not on that.
Maybe that's what they called candles back in the day.
Sperm holders. So that was weird. But other than that, so far the rating's been pretty normal.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Van Helsing gets to work. He opens the lid, and apparently you have to saw through the lead. And then Jon Stewart thinks, oh, this is going to be fucking disgusting. There's going to be corpse gas. A week-old corpse gas is going to burst through. Because apparently he has experience doing this, working in the asylum and being a doctor. Cuts through, no corpse gas. Shocking. The coffin is empty.
Bum, 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 bum.
Coffin's empty. Jon Stewart's flabbergasted. Somebody has stolen her corpse. Van Helsing. Oh, you fucking idiot. How many times must I tell you? He's not Italian. What is he, from Amsterdam?
Yeah.
I can't do a Dutch accent at all. I just think of...
Doody-doody-doody.
Yeah. Doody-doody-doody. Smoking a pancake. I don't know. I can't even do the Austin Powers one. So, much convincing. Jon Stewart relents and goes, maybe she's a lady of the night. Sucking blood. Not other things. It's different ladies of the night. I'm not convinced. You have to further prove to me. And Van Helsing's like, fine, I will. We'll put the lid back on. We'll come during the day.
Because it was in the last episode where we talked about like doing for like the funeral and stuff. He tried to put like a cross like on her lips and stuff because I think he was trying to get her to stay.
Yeah, and I think the funeral director, which is not what they were called back then. I don't remember what term he used, but he like undid it or some shit.
Because he also, before even, like, after the funeral, he wanted to cut her head off and, like, take out her heart to examine her.
Yeah, that's what Jon Stewart thought they were doing at first when they were going to the grave. He thought they were going to, like, autopsy her or something, I believe. Anyway, sorry, folks, if I'm a little scatterbrained here. I've been reading nonstop submissions, so while I'm reading Dracula, I get... Because a lot of the submissions have also been kind of gothic themed.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just kind of like getting a little, confused in certain parts. But anyway, when they leave, they see a white figure out in the darkened cemetery or whatever's around. They try to follow the figure, try to catch her in the act, and they find a little kid. Now they call kids it.
Yeah.
In this book, Bram Stoker treats kids as not human.
As objects.
Yeah, or pets. Like the way he talks about it, it's just always it's. So this little kid was just a mute it. Like it doesn't. Unless it's a baby, like why doesn't it...
Because I remember leaving, because like after they try to figure out what to do with it, and they wait for like someplace where they know where a cop's gonna be, and they wait for the sound. They're like, and we're just gonna leave it on the sidewalk, and I was like, leave it. Is this a typo?
Yeah.
What, did they forget to put a word in?
Because they couldn't say they found it. Because then they'd be like, well, what the fuck are you doing at, Lucy's grave or whatever? And then also, if she turns out missing, that looks suspicious. So
what are you doing with this baby that's gone missing?
Yeah, so, and again, you don't really know. It's just as a child. I don't know if it was a baby. I would assume, because it doesn't sound like it was walking or anything. I don't know.
Yeah, because they carry it and stuff. Maybe a toddler at the most.
Yeah, so they leave it in the street. And at least they had the decency to watch as the cop picked it up. And then they fucking scattered. They cheesed it. So after they're done cheesing it, I want to say there was more there's so many letters. But, main story, they end up going back during the daytime And Van Helsing's like, I'll show you now, you fucking douchebag. You're going to believe me this time. And they go, and Stewart's just like, oh, fucking old man, crazy. You're just going to show me another empty thing, grave robbers or something. Somebody's begotten with my Lucy's body. Well, sure enough, they open, and there's Lucy, because it's daytime, looking even more beautiful than ever. And Stewart's just like, oh, this is fucked. This is not right. This is not correct. She's not supposed to be in here looking all sexy and turning me on and that's making me think weird things. And Van Helsing, as one would do, we clearly have to cut off her head, stuff her mouth full of garlic, and drive a stake through her chest. And Stewart naturally was like, do we?
Yeah.
Is that what we gotta do? That seems a little harsh. Is that where we ended? Was that the end of the chapter 5? Because I don't remember them doing that yet.
Yeah, no,
they examined her. They opened her eyes and looked at her fucking really pointy teeth at this point. You know what, though? That is where we ended, but Van Helsing explains, and I thought this was really cool. I've never heard of this before. Lucy, and why she's the Bloofer lady and all this shit, and why, unlike Dracula, she's not just going around maliciously eating people other than, like, chewing on kids, but she's not, like, doing normal vampire shit. It's because her sleepwalking. She transformed when she was in her sleepwalking state. So now that she's a vampire, she's like permanently in a trance.
Yeah, because I think that's one of the times whenever earlier, because they revealed earlier in the book how she would go in the sleepwalking fits. Well, one of the times she went out sleepwalking and nobody caught her, and that was the first time that Dracula got her, if I remember correctly, and then was able to. Then was just that
he infected her technically. If that's how it works. Again, we don't know that yet because I've never read Dracula, but assuming it's like this is the vampire story we all know. Is he infects her with whatever makes you a vampire? So she was in a trance or sleepwalking trance when that happened. See, I at first thought she was just sleepwalking because of him. Yeah. I thought it was like somehow him making her sleepwalk.
No, I think she always had sleepwalking, and she just happened to get bit while she was in sleepwalk. So then I think like every time I think that's when she would feel it more is whenever, before she died, is whenever she was sleepwalking. I feel like
it was it's a really interesting thing because then she doesn't even really know what she's doing, and is she like permanently stuck like that? Guess what to read on. Was there anything else? I don't think there was anything more with Jonathan Harker other than they're gonna. Yeah, I forget what their job is at the moment. Like what Van Helsing. I think he's just gonna get back to him, maybe.
Yeah, I think because they have like a lunch or something after Van Helsing got done talking to his wife, and because he still wasn't quite 100%, and he was worried, but then he was just like. Oh, if you're gonna go to if you're gonna go to take out the count, you can count me in. But yeah, and I think that's where it kind of pretty much ended. But like I said, if we jump back a little bit with Van Helsing trying to further prove to Stuart that about what's going on is they go to see like a zoologist or or I don't know if that's what they were called back then, but there was something like that.
Well, I think we skipped the part in the last because we mentioned it, but I don't think we were quite there. That might be how this one starts. The 10th chapter or something is about that wolf that escaped.
Yeah,
the zoo. But then it turned out like Dracula again. He can kind of control wolves, so that's what it alludes to. And then. They brought that up when they were talking about the bats. They were like, well, it could be a bat, because they're talking about different vampire bats from around the world. Maybe one came from the South or Africa or somewhere. Because it's very possible to escape from the zoo as well, because just a wolf escaped last week or whatever. So now the reader would be connecting bats with Dracula, which, again, I don't think that was ever a connection before. I don't know if the original vampire story had people turning into bats. I'm not sure. Maybe that's how it started. Maybe they just were blood-sucking bats. We also, there was some talk about animals getting their blood sucked by these vampire men. And they sucked them dry.
Yeah, that's what they were trying to, that's what Van Helsing, I think, was trying to so maybe that bit Lucy, and John like, oh, yeah, that kind of makes sense. And now she's a vampire, and John's like, no, that don't make sense.
Come on, man. Come on with your spermy candle wax. That's Just a sidebar. You ever have somebody pour hot candle wax on you? I don't know. I don't understand the pleasure behind that.
No,
it doesn't sound hot at all. I mean, it does, but not in the way you want it.
Technically, it sounds hot, but
it sounds fucking painful. Like hot candle wax on your genitals in your pee hole. You open it up and pour. That's how you do it, right? Eyeballs, nips, and pee hole. That's what I do. Yeah, speaking of candle wax, I got a good segue.
Oh yeah,
I got a question for you, Spencer.
Okay.
This is not at all where you're thinking it's going. It's exactly where you think it's going. An abrupt shift in tone.
Yeah, well, what about candles?
Well, that's funny you ask, because I have to ask you, Spencer. Do you want to slap a wax figure of Tony Danza while singing the Armenian national anthem? Surge! Slap the wax. I don't know why Tony Danza. I don't know why Armenian national anthem either. I thought that was bizarre. Here's the weird thing, Spencer. I wrote that search bit about candle wax. Before I read that part about the wax. But that cemented it.
Yeah.
But I didn't want a smooth segue this time because it's already getting stupid.
Yeah.
If you folks want to fucking jack off an elephant, you can. If you folks want to stop sending me your goddamn Halloween submissions that I canceled a couple days ago and 2 weeks ago, I guess,
getting them?
I get daily. I guess it doesn't matter because when this episode drops, it's gonna be like over. It's probably like November or something. But yeah, I keep getting them, and I called an end. I called an end to it, and they just keep coming. Also, next year we're not doing PDFs because the PDF, for whatever reason, some of these stories, the formatting's fucking up when I try to convert it, and I can't. It makes all these weird spaces, and I have to manually delete 5,000 spaces. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, it sucks when you have to do that for your own work, let alone somebody else's.
Yeah, fuck that noise. If you folks want to check out the stories I'm talking about, you can go to drunkenpenwriting.com. We have a lot. We're at the point now where I got to schedule like 2 a day, I think.
Nice.
Also, you can go to Twitter at drunkpenwriting. Follow it. It is the best account on the internet with the title Drunken Pen Writing.
In it.
You can go on Instagram and Twitter, also Drunken Pen Writing. You can probably follow Tony Danza too.
Just don't tell him about us wanting to slap a wax figure of him.
Don't even do that. Just go to Tony Danza, any social media that he may have, and just spam comment if you can. Slap the wax.
Hashtag smack the wax.
Slap the wax. Hashtag surge. Tony Danza will appreciate it because he's going to be on the podcast in 2029, I think. Yeah. If he's still alive. I don't know. He's got to be up there, right? Got to be like 70.
I think so, yeah.
Still kind of ripped. He was in that Don John movie with your boy Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
I never got around to watching that. But that makes sense because isn't he in that movie like just like the stereotypical
New Jersey guy?
Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. You know what I hated about that movie? I mean, I get the point they're trying to make with anti-porn and all the other shit. It dumps ScarJo, who was looking extra fresh in that movie, I might add, for fucking old-ass Julianne Moore.
Oh, what?
Yeah, he starts doing her, and they have an emotional connection, and she's extra gross in that movie because they purposely made her, like, not sexual because he's a sex addict.
So does that make him stop watching porn, then?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I just kind of got stupid. It was a good movie, but that part was kind of stupid. I'm not a big Julianne Moore fan, though I did like her in Boogie Nights, I think. She had an excellent scene where her and Dirk Diggler dug each other.
Yeah.
But then Phillips, anytime I think of that, some people think of like his big fake, schlong or Julianne Moore doing a nude scene or whatever. All I ever think about is Philip Seymour Hoffman being really gross.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about him, but I can't watch a movie of his because he's just always kind of gross. Like Along Came Polly, extra gross.
I was going to say, especially in Boogie Nights, it was like extra gross because he is supposed to be like extra gross.
Yeah, we'll end it on that. Extra gross. And do not get... You know what? Those sperm...
Candles?
that might actually come about in 2020 or 2021 because a lot of female rappers now are releasing their vagina-scented candles.
Yeah, yes,
Like
yes.
Erykah Badu, and there was another one, I want to say like Nicki Minaj or somebody. Probably not Nicki Minaj, but one of them.
Was it Cardi B? That sounds like something she would do.
I feel like that would stink.